Pornography is sexually addicting media through photos, videos, music, books, magazines that takes away the power to be with people and make meaningful connections with them.
Pornography is anything that de-reverences the body in any shape or form.
Pornography is more than just nude images or video. Sometimes it attacks your words, it attacks your jokes, your content, the things you watch on television. Anything that takes away from your ability to love another person is pornographic.
I'm Craig Bacher. Porn can be addictive, that porn kills love, and that porn harms our society as a whole. Pornography harms people and society really in three major ways. One, it harms the brain, and that's kind of the process of addiction and what that does to the brain and how it's like a drug. And then two, it affects relationships, and we like to focus on kind of this idea of the heart of the matter. And that's what matters, is relationships are the most important thing. And if people can't connect and they can't relate with each other the same way that they should be and have healthy relationships, you know, that's a big part of what porn's doing today, is it's ruining relationships. You know, the research today is showing that pornography is messing up society in a big way. And we're seeing this not only just from it being addicted to people and making it so people can't connect the same and can't reach a normal relationship, but because it also affects things like sex trafficking, and it leads to bigger issues that people don't understand. You know, pornography doesn't just affect a viewer, which it does, of course, but it also affects someone on the other side. And so we want people to understand that if you click something, you might be supporting something else.
My name is Skylar Smoot. I'm 22 years old. I've been clean for about 4 to 5 years now. I also love to be outdoors, do anything super active. But what I'm currently doing right now is I'm actually working for the Sons of Helaman program. I do a lot of different seminars, a lot of different trainings, and I'm currently kind of helping individual boys to overcome their addictions to pornography. Honestly, I was too young to really remember exactly how I got involved with it. I was about 10 or 11 when I first fell into it. And my teacher having this talk with us, and I think it kind of just clicked. It was like, wait a second, like, that's what I'm doing. Like, that's pornography. And this is the problem that I have. And I remember kind of clicking. It was backwards. You know, I already had the addiction, and then I found out what it was. Once I kind of came to that realization that this was the problem, that it was pornography and it was an addiction, I realized I needed to stop, and I realized very quickly that I couldn't. And I remember kind of the big moment where I realized, like, this has to end. I woke up that morning, just some morning, I was about 13 years old, and I was kind of like, this is a day I'm not going to lose, you know, is the term. Kind of going good throughout the entire day, and then out of nowhere, you know, Satan and these chemicals hit me, and I lost. And I was shattered. And I was sitting there, and I just remember thinking, like, I have absolutely no control. And that was the moment where I kind of walked into my room, and I had said so many different prayers about this, you know, trying to overcome it, trying to figure this out, trying to solve it, you know, promising my Heavenly Father over and over again that I'm not going to do it again, I'm not going to do it again, I'm not going to do it again. And I just realized at that moment I didn't believe myself. I realized I had no ability to decide whether I was going to not do it again or not. And I remember just kind of falling to my knees and just saying, like, Heavenly Father, I give up. I can't. I can't even tell you that I'm not going to do this again, because I don't have an ability not to. And at that moment is when Heavenly Father, you know, it hit me so hard. It says, you need to go upstairs, you need to talk to your parents about this.
I became first involved with pornography when I was 12 years old. I was playing some games on the computer and just on the sidebar, some images that popped up, and they were pretty interesting. And it grabbed my attention, and from there it went just deeper and deeper to seeing it and having it be something that I like to look at, to searching it out and spending more time with it. I almost lacked confidence. I was very shy, and everything in life was kind of overwhelming sometimes. I fought for 9 years. For me, it was a slow process of realization of how big of an issue it actually is, and taking it step by step to knowing how important it is to stop. And when I realized that I wanted to serve a mission, I knew I couldn't do it if I had this problem, because I wouldn't be able to have the Spirit with me. I wouldn't be able to preach the things Christ preached if I wasn't clean myself. I realized that this can't go on forever, and that it's gonna have to stop if I want to be happy.
Looking at pornography objectifies everybody else in your mind, and not just sexually, not just other girls are this sexual object, but in every regard. I mean, my boss was just this thing that gave me money. My mother was just somebody who just fed me. It was every relationship I had was just me receiving from everybody else what I needed in order to live and sustain myself.
When it got to the point where I really liked a girl and we started dating, then it would change the way I would think about her. And when hanging out with her, there's always that, what selfish needs can I get from this relationship, and not just how can I become a better person through this relationship, and how can I help her with her needs. It's a very selfish motives almost.
Satan hits the people hard when they're young because he knows that they're going to do damage to Satan, to the adversary's kingdom, when they're older. He hits kids when they're so young because they can't fend for themselves, they can't fight back like they'll be able to when they're older.
Because that's what Satan wants us to do. He wants us to make sure that we never feel any type of forgiveness.
I think there's a lot of taboo. There's a lot of judgment. As a culture, we say people are bad because they've done something that is bad. And that's not how it works.
By the age of 18, over 90% of men will have seen this. And over 70% of women will too. That's the world that we live in today.
I'm Cody Hawes from Hermiston, Oregon. I'm a therapist for Life Changing Services in the Sons of Helaman program. I've been working in the field for about 10 years now, in prisons and mental health facilities. Worked with sex offender population for a good 7 years, and now the last 3 years with people that are overcoming addiction, people that are facing marital issues because of addiction, women that are going through betrayal trauma because of stuff that's happened in their marriage. We also deal with a lot of mental health issues. A lot of times sex in general is shamed. It's shamed, it's guilted. And parents maybe talk about it in a shaming way or stuff like that. And so we learn it from the locker room, or we learn about those things from sources that aren't trusted. And so a lot of the time when it's shamed so much and we see it all of a sudden, it becomes very hidden. It becomes one of those things that we feel like we're the only ones doing it. Feel like the only ones that ever been exposed to it. And so that's why it's so shaming. But the more that we feel like we're the enemy and we don't separate it from ourselves, the more we can know that we can heal. But if he's within us, and we don't know that Satan's coming in trying to wreak havoc and using his tactics against us, we will continue to be the enemy. And that's where recovery just is at a halt. It's complacent.
When I felt the lowest in my life, and that sadness and that sorrow has compelled me to be a better person, because I know that there's nowhere else to go from the bottom but up.
My name is Krista Gelson. I'm from Alaska. I live in a small town that nobody has ever heard of. It's called Wasilla. Well, between the ages of 11 and 13, I was exposed to pornography online. I think I started just reading stories that were actually innocent, and it just kind of like, it easily led into dark things online. Throughout the years as a teenager, I would come back to it. And every time I did, it felt dark, and I liked it. It pulled me in. I think all along I knew like this wasn't really something that I should be doing. Like a good girl doesn't do this. A girl who's trying to follow Jesus Christ doesn't do this. But it's really easy to like ignore that when you keep on pursuing it. That this was something that I should stop, and I should stop justifying about it, and honestly stop doing it. It's hard to admit to myself, because I kept on saying, oh, well, like, if I do all these other good things, it kind of like covers it up almost, like it negates it, but it just doesn't work like that. But when I was 18, I just started to read my scriptures. It took me that long just to figure that one out, to start reading my scriptures and to start praying. And when I started doing those things, that's when like pornography started to weigh on my conscience a lot more. I knew that it was something that was holding me back and that was hurting me spiritually. I remember sitting right in front of my bed, kneeling on my knees and praying to God, asking for his forgiveness, promising him I'd stop. I would stop. I wouldn't do it ever again. I'd try my hardest, and I'd just let it go. And I think that's the first time that I was sincere about not doing it again. With pornography is I lied about it. And the first person I lied about it was to myself. And so you can only be so honest with anyone else when you're lying to yourself. So I went on my mission in 2013. Kind of checked that part of myself. I told myself I'd forsaken the sin, I'd let it go, I wasn't doing it again, I wasn't going to go again and do it. And so in my mind I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I don't need to worry about like telling anyone about it. Like, it's gone, it's gone. And I kept on telling myself that. But over and over and over again, like there would be these small moments when I was lying down in bed, when I'd review and think about like, do I feel confident before God? Are there things that are holding me back? And that would always come up, and I'd always tamp it down. Just like, I'm fine, I'm good. Like, it's not a problem. But it was. I didn't feel completely worthy. I was with a really sweet companion, talking about like how concerned we were for the younger generations. And I remember just telling her, like sharing with her how much I knew that it did leave spiritual wounds. And I didn't even tell her what I'd gone through. But I felt so strongly that like those wounds are real. They were there. And I think in that moment, and then in the weeks later, that I realized that that was true for a lot of people, and especially it was true for me. I remember standing outside my Mission Presence office. I remember opening up scriptures because it was Alma, and it was Alma just going through the whole thing about how he had been in the darkest abyss and been brought back into the greatest light. And I remember sitting down in front of my mission president. I could barely even say anything at all, but he looked at me and there was just, I felt like it was like a million years of just silence, but he wasn't judging me. And then he said something that has like, kind of like, just pierced my heart. He said, "You've been cleansed through the atonement of Christ." I don't think I realized how long that burden had been with me. I could not be cleansed on my own. I didn't have that power.
Through his love and his atonement, that I was able to feel whole.
I mean, I was a very socially awkward kid back then. I didn't have an ability to speak or communicate. And that was, you know, a fate worse than death. That was horribly scary to me. Help me. I can't. Like, help me to get up there. And before I realized what was happening, my knees were lifted and I was on my feet. And I remember walking into my parents' room and telling them, and it wasn't something that was from my own strength, but it was truly Heavenly Father helping me out. I am a son of God, and that I'm an eternal warrior. And it's not me who is this, you know, scumbag, but it's the adversary who's trying to make me look that way and trying to turn me into this. I started not to feel as much shame when I lost. I realized that it wasn't my, you know, it wasn't me who was losing. You know, it was Satan who was getting me to lose. And once I was able to take the shame out of it and recognize that it was something that wasn't my personality, it wasn't my identity, I was able to cope with this a lot better. And so when I would lose, it would then turn to me, you know, turning to my Heavenly Father, going on and doing really healthy things like going on a run, going on, you know, reading the scriptures and listening to good music. Being able to cope with a loss more turned into repenting and trying to change.
Know where your own struggles are and fight it with them. Make sure you fight alongside with them. Remember that Satan's always about making a wall between you and your family members. He wants to make it so there isn't any type of bond. And that's what addiction is. It's a bond. And so when we can find bonds and find fighting bonds with each other, that's where we can really help our family members. And so if a family member is struggling, notice your struggles also. Struggle with ice cream or too many cookies or video games or movies. I don't know, whatever your fantasy world or your escape might be, but fight it alongside with them and tell them that's what you're fighting. You go and say, you know what? So, you know, you're fighting this right now. I'm also fighting, and I'm fighting right beside you. Because that's what we do as family. There's no wall up between me and you. We're always going to be fighting together.
I never even realized the power of relationships. I never realized the power of making a connection with another human being. And even I graduated the program and overcame this when I was about 17 to 18. And I still didn't learn how to build a connection with somebody. I still didn't learn how to build relationship until my mission. And it was until my mission that I realized that it was so vital to be able to gain these friendships. And it brought so much happiness that I had never experienced, to be able to connect with somebody, to be able to truly know another individual.
However, there's also an audience that we're not talking about, the supporters. They feel that they can't talk about what they're going through because they don't want to hurt the person that's trying to fight the addiction. And they don't want to share that story with anyone because they don't want anyone to see that person differently. However, there's something that you can do. Talk to someone that you feel you can trust. Talk to Heavenly Father about the pain that you feel when there is a lost battle. And make sure that you're open with the person who you're supporting. Make sure that you constantly remind them that they are loved by the Heavenly Father, and then you remember that too. If you're supporting someone right now, just remember not to be silent about your own feelings. Talk about it. And remember that this is just a small moment. That it might take time, but that time will end, and soon you'll be able to help that person find their own happiness.
The more that we can face reality, the more we can rewire the brain. But if we're so stuck in fantasy-based coping strategies, that's where the brain's going to go. It's going to go there every time because that's what we're used to. If we can talk to somebody about it, what we learned, and create a reason for fighting against what Satan used against us, that's when we feel that we're not the enemy. Pornography is very strong. It's not gonna be non-existent anymore. But we can realize that we can overcome it by fighting those urges. And the more we fight, the more it gets easier. We especially tend to really love and have confidence in ourselves.
And part of that, changing that is by understanding that people struggle with it, that it doesn't have to be this way. Now, if a couple together understands that we live in a world where this is just everywhere, then they can understand that, like, hey, it's going to happen. It's going to pop up. And when they're parents, their kids may struggle with it. It's going to pop up. So you got to be prepared to talk to them about, what it can do to them and what it does to relationships. You got to be prepared to educate each other on this stuff, to help each other work through it. It needs to be an open conversation. But I think a huge part of recovery and helping people is understanding that love wins and love matters, bottom line.
It's a hard topic to talk about. It can be awkward to bring up. But if the fighter really has been open with you and you know about it, and they are doing their best to overcome it or have stopped, and it's just like the checkup conversations that happen, those conversations need to happen. It's something that the fighter wants to work through, and it's not comfortable bringing it up, but there's no fear in asking, how have you been doing? And there's no fear in asking, how things have been going, and when they tell you the wins that they've had, be happy, be supportive. Those are great times, those are miracles, and through the losses, those are the times that they need you most.
I think the most important thing for anyone to know, regardless of whether you're struggling with an addiction to pornography, whether you're dealing with, really anything, is to know that someone loves you unconditionally, regardless of what you've done, what you've gone through, where you've been, where you are right now, that they love you and support you and will be there through it all, that they will stick with you. If you're willing to love them and understand them without judging, that's golden. Love that people have had for me without condition has propelled me to go forward, has enabled me to have the strength and the belief that I am worth it, that I'm worth fighting for, that Christ believes in me, that God sees me as a daughter of His. You cannot fight a battle with pornography without Christ. Because He has done that, He can not only pick you up and fight for you, but allow you to be forgiven, to allow you to be cleansed. I think for me the most, though, it's helped me to better understand the atonement, how it's not a conditional sort of thing, that you can use the atonement not just for like light sins, but you can use it for very hard things. Atonement, it's not just for other people, it's for you. It's for the struggles you're going through, either they're harder or they are relatively easy for other people. So those things that I've done in my past that I wish I hadn't, they literally can become purified to become who God has planned for me to become.
Don't give up. We talked about hope. Once you give up that hope, there is nothing left. So for me, it would be turn your life over to God, let Him run it, and you're just along for the ride. As you do that, you're going to start seeing things are going to become a lot easier. So what I would say for the addict that's not sure if they want to come out and express it and say, hey, I have this addiction, and they still feel like it's just their small little problem that nobody knows about, I would say to that is find someone you can trust, tell them everything, and use that person as your mentor to say, hey, When I'm struggling, I'm having a bad day, when I can't get these thoughts or these images out of my head, I'm going to call you and you're going to walk me through it. And you're going to tell me things I don't want to hear. That's what needs to happen to a person if they want to overcome it. If they're not sure about coming out and expressing, hey, I have this addiction, or hey, I need help, go ask somebody. An addiction doesn't have to last a lifetime. An addiction has to last as long as you want it to. We're in control of our own bodies, our own brains, our own minds. It's time for us to take that back. With pornography, it's taken over and we're losing all of our free agency. Once we take that free agency back and make decisions for ourselves, and with the help of our support group and our family and friends, we can overcome anything. And I think that you guys that are struggling with porn addiction, stop it now. There's no better time than now.
Is really rewiring the brain, making sure that we're knowing that we can be powerful over it, and that we can rewire it, we can have power and dominion over it. Tell the brain that, man, I'm not going to do this. We have to set Satan straight. We have to tell him, man, we're powerful against you.
Love kills porn because it's incredible. It's wonderful. Love matters. Relationships matter.
Love can kill porn because it takes the loneliness piece out and puts people with family, with friends, with people that they can work with and love and spend time with. And that love can kill porn in the fact that it can bring the person into the light rather than in darkness.
Love kills porn because the person that you're loving, or the love for yourself, just overcomes any desire to fight or to have that temptation in your life. When we have love for ourselves and we have love for others, it creates more reasons for fighting. The more we have our morals and ethics in our mind, the more we fight this with just guns a-blazing. Love kills porn because of that, because we have more reasons for fighting. And the more we remember those reasons for fighting, the more it just kills out any type of pornography addiction.
Love kills porn, mainly for me, because Jesus Christ has the ultimate love. Because of that connection that we can have with Jesus Christ, we can progress. And the more we change using that atonement that is based off of love, the more we recognize that we don't need and we can't have porn in our lives.
Love kills porn because they're completely opposite. You choose love over porn, you're choosing an active way to fight it. Because you're not in this battle alone. You can be. Maybe you've chosen it. But He has already fought it for you. And if you'll come closer to Him, you can fight it and conquer.